Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Jason Williams, and I'm with my tag team partner, Blake Castetter, and we are the Sunday Fun Day guys. Blake, week 2, wild, crazy, all types of upsets. Survivor pools are destroyed. What's your take on week 2, buddy?
That's it right there. Wild and crazy, man. Holy cow. Injuries galore, people not showing up, leads being blown, Baltimore losing at home to Las Vegas. I think 66% of all Survivor pools have been depleted already.
Wow. And what did we say? Just get through September. Maybe we should modify that and just get through the first 2 weeks of September. Seriously. Give me some storylines, Blake, that'll impact this week. We're going into week 3. A lot of injuries, a lot of guys hurt, a lot of guys on IR. Let's go through some of those guys a little bit.
Tua.
Ooh.
Is he going to retire? Is not, but they moved him to IR. So another concussion. That was ugly. How's that going to impact the wide receivers in the offense for Miami? Yet to be determined. They brought in Huntley, right, from Baltimore?
Yep.
So, he performed well whenever Lamar went out, so I think that's a good pickup on their part. You got Pacheco. Man, the offense was running through Pacheco in Kansas City, and he now is on the IR. Debo, all of a sudden, calf strain, out multiple weeks. A.J. Brown, hamstring, couple weeks. Amon-Ra St. Brown said he avoided major injury, but still, to be determined. We don't know what that impact's going to look like. Justin Jefferson, quad contusion, said he's day-to-day. And then Evan Ingram, hamstring, day-to-day as well.
Man, just a mash unit of not only just like players, but these guys are like star players. And speaking of star players, you have a couple of some tidbits on first and second round madness. And we're not talking about March play. We're talking about NFL.
Yeah. If you look at Fantasy Pros, top 25, final ADP, 13 of the 25 are either hurt or showing major cause for concern. Let's just run through a couple of them.
Sure.
CMC, IR. Tyreek Hill, no Tua. Jamar Chase, hold out. Then he's gone 10 for 97 over 2 games. Looks like he's starting to build chemistry. They're starting to get things moving in Cincinnati, but still cause for concern. Justin Jefferson, injured. Amon-Ra St. Brown, injured. Garrett Wilson, I don't know what's going on there, but maybe it's the QB play. Again, just like Chase, 10 for 117 and 0. A.J. Brown, injured. Puka, IR. Drake London, 8 for 69 and 1. Week 1, 2 for 15 and 0. If that last drive didn't happen this week,
right.
He doesn't have 50 yards receiving.
He's not
Cooper Kupp,
top 100 receiver.
Yeah. Cooper Kupp, injured. Isaiah Pacheco, IR. Brandon Ayuk, 5 targets per game with a total of 6 receptions for 71 yards. And then Deebo Samuel, injured as well.
Going over that list it's insane. Like to think about these guys are like high draft picks, first and second rounders, and look, everybody's hurt. And I kind of have a theory on this, Blake, and we don't have to get too deep into this, but as I talk about all the time when we have our private conversations, none of these guys play in the preseason. And I really think not playing in the preseason is a detriment not only to the team, to the chemistry, but there could be some validity in saying, okay, if you're not playing in the preseason and you're kind of going full speed in the regular season, first 2 games, are you at more risk to get hurt because you're not used to that speed and not used to getting hit? I'm just saying, I'm throwing it out there. That's maybe a conspiracy theory, but you don't see this many stars getting hurt at any point in time that I've ever seen in the NFL.
It's usually the beginning of the season when it happens.
Right?
Yep.
Big names, though. Big names. So speaking of big names, or what we thought were big names, our next segment is, folks, is it time to panic on a few players? Yes or no? So we're going to go through a couple players And we're going to give you our thoughts on, is it time to panic or press the panic button on these guys, or should we hold on just a little bit longer? So the first guy is Zamir White. In my opinion, I think you're panicking. He was supposed to be the guy, and he is definitely not the guy. Madison is the guy, and lo and behold, the Raiders have found a passing game with our buddy Gardner Minshew. He's actually leading the league in completion percentage, Blake, I believe.
Something like that. I think it is.
So while we thought it was going to be a run-heavy offense for the Raiders, it's actually become more of a split in terms of how they run and how they pass. And when they run, it's Alexander Madison that is getting the ball and getting goal line touches. So in my opinion, I think Zamir White, definitely time to panic.
I'm indifferent on it right now. I think the jury's still out.
Okay.
22 for 66 this year for Zamir White. That's not a good showing. Right. Madison did get the goal line touchdown this week. He did get the long receiving touchdown last week. Carries wise, though, he did not get the bulk this week. And Antonio Pierce came out and said they are going to continue to feed and find ways to get Zamir White the rock more. So while my stomach is still eerie on Zamir White, I wasn't a big Zamir White truther.
Yep, me either.
Is it coach speak? Or
we'll find out.
Yeah, right. They got Carolina this week, so we will see. Next, George Pickens. So he's averaging 4 catches per game on 5.5 targets, and he's totaled 55 yards through the first 2 weeks of the season. What says you? Time to panic in Pittsburgh?
I think so. And I said this our first episode. I had Pickens ranked low because I just don't trust that Steelers offense. They're 2-0, but let's be honest, it's a shady 2-0. It's not anything to write home about. I mean, they've scored 18 points and they've scored 13 points. They have 1 touchdown in 2 games. They can't run the ball. Clearly, they can't pass the ball. So them being 2-0 is kind of I don't want to say lucky, but you play who you play. There's an asterisk. I mean, their defense is still good. And that's the only thing that's probably kept them from being 0-2 is their defense, because their offense has done nothing. So for me, is it time to panic on George Pickens? I'm not panicking like panic, but I'm definitely putting my fingers on that panic button. I'm not pressing it yet, but I'm close.
I'm with you. I wonder. So I had Pickens higher because, again, they brought in 2 quarterbacks that are better than either the quarterbacks they've had the past 2 years. I just wonder if the last-minute QB change over to Fields made a difference. Not having the chemistry. He was not the QB1. Russell Wilson was all preseason. So the reps were between Pickens and Wilson, right? So I just have to wonder. I want to give him a little bit more time as well, but I'm closer to panic on Pickens than I am on Zamir White.
Okay, fair enough. Our next person, is it time to panic on Mr. Travis Kelce? 3 catches on 4 targets for 34 yards versus Baltimore. 1 catch, 3 targets versus the Bengals last week. Blake, is it time to panic on Mr. Kelce?
If it wasn't for Isaiah Pacheco going down, I'm 100% panicking. But with Pacheco going down, I think this is going to reshape their offense. They don't have a young stud running back anymore. They have a fullback that's a rookie. They got P. Ryan, and they have Kareem Hunt. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to have to lean on their gunslinger to throw the rock around a little bit more. And I think they're going to also lean on their vet, Travis Kelce.
I would agree. I'm going to give Travis Kelce the benefit of the doubt. And actually, I have him in another one of our segments. But I'm still like, instead of maybe 3 or 4 figures on the panic button, I definitely got 2. I don't have all of them, but I got 2 figures on the panic button, waiting to fit the rest of them on there. So we'll see what happens this week.
Being a Bengals fan, that'd be a fun panic button to push.
Oh, I'd press it every day, all day. Who's next on our list, buddy?
Michael Pittman. 7 catches for 52 yards so far this season, and Alec Pierce is outperforming him. They're just – I touch on him a little bit later. He scares me now. I don't know if there's just not chemistry between him and Richardson. I don't know why they're throwing him on short routes. His ADOT is extremely low. Josh Downs comes back this week. Jonathan Taylor's running the rock pretty well. Of all five that we're going over today, he's my biggest panic button.
Really? Wow. Okay. Again, I'm not ready. I put him and Pickens in kind of the same kind of category. It's all contingent on the quarterback play. Anthony Richardson has been inconsistent. And again, I talked about this in our first show. I love him talent-wise, but this guy hasn't even played 20 full games of football at any point stretch of his career, since high school. So he has a small sample size. Do I think he will be great? Yes. But this year, I feel like he's going to be inconsistent, which means the receiver's going to be inconsistent, which means in terms of panicking, I think there's some panic definitely setting in when it comes to Michael Pittman. No question about it. Him and Pickens, for me, are in the same boat in terms of panicking because of quarterback play and, again, not being able to get them the ball contingent on who's playing quarterback. I think that's the key with those two guys.
What about Sam Laporta? 6 catches for 58 yards. Last week, Goff threw 55 passes. Sam Laporta saw 3 of them.
Crazy. I am not ready to panic on Sam Laporta yet. I mean, if you look at the teams that Detroit has played, I mean, Tampa, and I don't remember who they played their first game. I guarantee there's an effort to try to stop Laporta, and you're going to let St. Brown get his. And now you see the emergence of Jameson Williams. There has to be a reason that Jameson Williams is starting to emerge. I think they're doubling Laporta and say, hey, you outside guys beat us. So now it's up to the Lions to figure out a way to get him in spots to get him open. But I am not ready to panic on Laporta yet.
No, I can't see it either. After last season, we knew there would be some sort of regression because, I mean, you don't see rookie tight ends have that kind of season, especially with all the weapons in Detroit's offense. There's a lot of mouths to feed. Add in Jameson Williams. He's a buy low candidate for me for sure.
I agree.
He's going to get his.
Yep, I agree. Sooner or later.
Right. It just might not be consistently every single week.
Yeah, so he's not going to, again, when you're a rookie, you're doing the things you did last year. I mean, again, these guys, these defensive guys, they watch the tape. They know what they come up with a plan, and they come up with a plan to try to stop them. They know the basis of Detroit's offense is run the ball and get the ball to the tight end. They have great receivers on the outside, but when Detroit is rolling, Laporta's catching the ball, running down the middle. No question about it.
All right. That does it for Is It Time to Panic? Next up, Start Sit, Week 3.
Week 3. Man, season's already week 3 already? Okay, so we'll get right into it, Fanatics. At quarterback, my start of the week is none other than Derek Carr.
Oh, come on. He has a bomb week, and you pick the easy one.
Really? Okay. Okay. If I pick the easy one, over the first 2 weeks, he's leading the league in touchdown passes, number 1 in passer rating, and number 2 in completion percentage. And you know who's behind him other than Gardner Minshew? Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, Gardner Minshew. Now, again, all these quarterbacks, and those 3 are at the top of the quarterback rankings in terms of completion percentage. If you would have told me that, I'd be like, listen, whatever you're doing, get off of it, man, because it ain't good. So, but here's the issue. Derek Carr, and I'm going to call him DC because he's earned that right now because he's been balling out. He's 13th among quarterbacks this week, number 13. So you're telling me people are drinking the Kool-Aid on Derek Carr? Well, I am drinking the Kool-Aid. Put some respect on this man's name. He will show up and show out this weekend at home against the Philly D coming off a short week and a brutal loss at home to the Atlanta Falcons. There's my guy, Derek Carr.
I think it's a pretty safe pick, dude.
I'm usually not one to do safe picks, but every once in a while I'll throw a curveball in there.
Well, I mean, all three of those quarterbacks you named were undrafted quarterbacks.
Amazing.
It really
Amazing.
is.
It is amazing. Like when you say that, it really like hits home. Like you weren't even thinking about drafting Gardner Minshew, Baker Mayfield, or Derek Carr in your draft. I mean, they weren't even on your list as the backups to the backups.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Who's your guy this week, Blake?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
We talked about that chemistry being built, little momentum going on. Rebound performance against the Chiefs this week. Scored 21 plus fantasy points. This coming week, he's got Monday Night Football at home against Washington. Might have T. Higgins back. I don't care if he has T. Higgins back or not. The jungle's going to be rocking. Baker and Danny Dimes combined for almost 500 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions against Washington's pass defense. I'm all in on Burrow this week.
And let's be honest, Joe Burrow's, he's pissed. Like they
that
realize,
loss.
that it hurt him really bad. So I can totally understand where you're coming from. When Joe's pissed, I think he's one of those guys that he gets even more focused and laser focused. So he's gonna, whatever it takes to win this game, he's gonna do it. Whatever it takes to will his team to victory, there's no question. I think that loss was disappointing to Bengals, but to their point, there was a lot of good things to take away from that loss. You hate to lose a game like that, but you can see signs that the Bengals are coming along. Again, it just, unfortunately, it takes them 2 games to into the season to do it. Every year, it seems like it. But love the pick of Joe Burrow this week against the Washington Commanders.
Staying in Washington, you've got Jaden Daniels as your sit of the week.
I do. Now, the Bengals have an interesting thing on defense. Their run defense is not very good, but their pass defense is second in the NFL. I know 2 weeks, small sample size, 120 yards per game, but they're going up against a rookie, and Lou Amarillo is going to make life tough on Jaden Daniels. The only way I see him scoring fantasy-wise in terms of points will be his legs. So, and he didn't score any touchdowns last week against the Giants' poor D. He had 2 the first week, none the second week. So I am saying sit Jaden Daniels against the Bengals. I think the Bengals, again, they'll be ready to roll. I think he's going to struggle. I think they're going to disguise a lot of coverage. They have a veteran secondary. So pay attention to the battle between Cliff Kingsbury and Lou Amarillo, and I think that's going to be a key. And I think the Bengals shut down Jaden Daniels this week.
It is shocking to see that he led him all the way down to the red zone or close to the red zone, yet they couldn't convert any touchdowns last week.
Amazing.
Speaking of an offense that's sputtering, my sit of the week is Dak Prescott. So far this season, he's averaged 14 points per game. And the Cowboys offense as a whole looks rough. They had Zeke starting. Last week they had Dowdle starting. But then they had their Deuce Vaughn getting reps as well. Typically Dak plays better at home, but man, last week was not the case. This week he's got Baltimore coming into town. They've been tough on opposing QBs. Mahomes and Minshew averaged 15.5 points against Baltimore over the past 2 weeks.
Wow.
I don't know if I see it's a game script that makes sense for Dallas. I just don't know because they should be playing from behind based on Baltimore. Aside from the loss to Las Vegas, in theory they should be playing from behind, which gives opportunity to throw the ball a lot. But I still don't. This looks like Dak of old, not Dak of end of 2023.
This is not $60 million Dak? This is more like $20 million Dak? Okay.
Gosh, and this sounds really familiar, Jason. I feel like our quarterback got paid and then.
Yeah, the return on the investment has not been where we think as fans it needs to be. But I agree with your point. And I think Baltimore is another team that's pissed off. They're 0-2. And they've got too much talent to be 0-2. And they saw what the Saints did to the Cowboys. So what do you think they're going to do? get that freight train in the backfield going. Derrick Henry, woo, he is going to be running rush up. The Saints run a similar scheme as the Ravens when they do a lot of the zone block in Dallas. Their defense under Mike Zimmer was god-awful against the run against the Saints. Now, I'm not comparing the Saints line with the Ravens because I think the Saints line is better. But when you got Derrick Henry and you're watching this tape this week, I mean, they got to be salivating on the fact that they can run the ball down Dallas and Soda, which means if they're doing that, Dak doesn't have an opportunity to get on the field.
I thought the success that Jerome Ford had in week 1 was kind of an anomaly.
Yeah.
But after week 2, the Dallas defense might not be very good against the run.
Clearly, they got issues. They have issues. They definitely have issues. So next up are running backs. So my starting running back this week is Tony Pollard against the Green Bay Packers. Now, as we talked about a couple episodes ago, when you have running back by committees, you need a couple weeks for this thing to start shaking out. And it looks like Tony Pollard is getting the majority of the carries in Tennessee. And I know Spears has a little bit of an ankle issue that he had towards the end of the game last week. So my start would be Tony Pollard this week at running back. Green Bay, run defense is at the bottom half of the league. And if they're smart, meaning the Titans, they will run the ball a lot and keep it out of Will Levis's hand, because when it's in his hands, he does crazy, you know what, with the ball. So
Those
crazy. The coach is literally like, man, what the hell are you doing out there? So I expect a lot of Tony Pollard. I expect the line for Tennessee to do what they do under Callahan, and I expect at least 150 yards if they want to win the game. If they're smart again, they'll let Will Levis pass minimally and get the ball in Tony Pollard's hands.
Did I see Spears is banged up too?
He is, yes. He's got an ankle.
Okay.
Yep.
So
yeah, he's got an ankle.
Also bodes well for Tony Pollard,
right,
carrying the bulk of the carries.
Yep, exactly.
I'm staying in Cincinnati with Brian Robinson Jr. as my start of the week. Our run defense is not good, like you said. I mean, last week, Brian Robinson went 17 for 133 against the Giants. This week, he goes against the Bengals. We've got Ramondre Stevenson and Pacheco, gashed us.
Right.
Stevenson killed us single-handedly. Pacheco was 19 for 90 rushing the ball and 5 for 21 receiving before his injury. If anyone has any game film on us, they're not going to try and beat us through the air.
No. And let's be honest, the Bengals are one serious lineman injury, D-lineman injury interior from really, really struggling. They're thin on the defensive line, so I think that's a great pick. I actually thought about Robinson a little bit. I went Tony Pollard, but I can totally see why you would start Brian Robinson, because the Bengals, at least over the first 2 weeks, again, small sample size, but until you stop it, they're going to do it. And the book is out on a lot of these teams. Dallas can't stop the run. The Bengals can't stop the run. So we're going to run it until they stop it, especially with a rookie quarterback.
Speaking of injuries and impacting teams, my sit of the week is Kyren Williams.
Ooh.
And the only reason I'm doing it is because they have 4 starting offensive linemen that are out this week. He's going to get the volume, but there's going to be nowhere to run.
No, I ironically enough, Blake, I had Kyren Williams in my sit as well, but I changed it. So when I looked at the line and I looked at the injuries, you also got to look at Puka being out, Kupp being out. So who scares you on the Rams offense? Nobody. So what are you going to do? You're going to stop the run and you're going to make Stafford throw to a bunch of receivers nobody's ever heard of. So I think Kyren Williams is a great sit for this week. No question about it. If there's a number one sit this week, I think it has to be Kyren Williams. No question.
I appreciate that. You backing me up there, Jason.
Hey, that's what we do. I got your back, buddy. Now, speaking of backs or backfields, my sit of this week is the entire Steelers backfield. Either one, Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren. The Chargers D is ranked second in the league, folks, giving up an average of 80 yards per game. and only 6.5 points a game this year. Again, small sample size, 2 games. Steelers offense ranks 30th in the league with only 260 yards a game. In the first 2 games, the Steelers scored 18 points, all on field goals, 13 points, 1 touchdown. So again, in 2 games, 1 touchdown. Justin Fields, so offensive line, going against Bosa and Mack and a Chargers team that likes to run the ball down your throat and brings their defense. So I am not playing either one of the Steelers running backs this week against the Chargers.
Like you said earlier, they haven't shown that they can run the ball yet at all either.
No.
And you're not afraid of their quarterbacks.
Clearly not. No.
Stack the box, stop the run.
Exactly. That's going to be the theme of the week. Stack the box, stop the run.
My start of the week, though, at wide receiver in Los Angeles, it's a deep one. And I went deep. I mean, I got him off waivers, and I've grabbed him everywhere that I can, and it's Demarcus Robinson. So, again, make him beat you through the air because they're going to stack the box. With Puka, Kupp, and Higbee out, someone's got to get the targets. In 2023, Robinson averaged 7 targets and 4 catches per game over his last 6 games with the Rams, and he scored in 4 of those 6 games. Now, again, it could be Tyler Johnson, it could be Tutu Atwell, it could be Withington. For some reason, there's something with Tutu, and aside from Tutu, neither of the others have rapport with Stafford like Demarcus Robinson does. So I'm taking a flyer on him in a lot of cases, and I might start him in a couple leagues, just a flex-worthy spot.
Yeah. I was going to say, are you starting him as a flex?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I can see that. I actually think Stafford has a better rapport with Tutu, but I think Tutu and Robinson are 1A and 1B, are interchangeable. It seems like Stafford likes to throw to Tutu, but also likes to throw to Robinson. So again, if you're looking for, if you got Debo hurt, or if you got a couple receivers, so let's say you got Debo and Justin Jefferson, you don't know what to do. Those 2 guys might be a couple guys you might want to pick up this week.
Speaking of Debo being hurt.
Yes, I am rolling with my start this week with Debo's sidekick, Brandon Ayuk. Now, the first 2 weeks, as Blake talked about, haven't been impressive. And maybe that's because he's rounded in shape. Well, I'm thinking this is the week. If any week is going to be the week, this is going to be the week. 67% of snaps week 1, 87% week 2. Debo's out. Kittle's banged up. Brandon, time for you to earn that money, man. Only 10 targets and only 71 yards. No touchdowns the first 2 weeks. So, Mr. Moneyman, Mr. Contract, it's time for you to step up. 1, because they paid you all this money, and 2, because your team needs you. So I am starting Brandon Ayuk this week against the Rams.
I think it's a solid pick. My sit of the week, I'm back in Indy with Michael Pittman.
Ooh, you love Michael Pittman. A lot of Pittman.
It's exactly what I've covered, though. You know, he scares me. He's being outplayed by Alec Pierce. Josh Downs is returning. Pittman's ADOT is under 10 yards. He's had 15 targets, but he's turned 7 of those into a total of 52 yards because they're underneath routes. Like, I'm not sure what's going on in Indy, but this week he's got Chicago so far this season. And again, like you said, small sample size. They've had a solid pass defense against Tennessee and Houston. They've held Ridley, Diggs, and Tank Dell all to under 8 PPR points.
No, I think your point is valid. I think Pittman has struggled. I think that offense as a whole, other than the running back, his name was escaping me. JT. Other than JT, that offense, other than the first game against Houston, has struggled. And I think everything is predicated on Anthony Richardson. If he's doing well, then the offense takes off. But I still think he's good. Again, when he's inconsistent, you can't really depend on those receivers to get you consistency when your quarterback's inconsistent. So I agree with you 100%. I'm not playing any close receivers until I see more consistency out of the quarterback. And when I get that, then we can start having conversations about maybe flexing Pittman or Downs or whoever or Pierce. But at this point, honestly, I'm not touching any of the Colts receivers.
And on that same note, as big as a believer as I am in Anthony Richardson, and I think that ground game, I think he's, I said top 5 quarterback this year. They became consistent at the wide receiver position when Gardner Minshew came in.
They did. I agree. And again, he's still learning the game. I mean, he's a rookie. I mean, he hasn't played a whole season yet, so he's still learning the game. So, with the Colts receivers, temper your expectations. I think this is a great pick, Blake, in terms of sitting Michael Pittman until you see any semblance of consistency. I'm not even talking about one game. I'm talking about at least 1 or 2 games, and then you could start potentially considering bringing it back in your lineup. But for a guy that was high on a lot of people's lists, that return on investment hasn't been great so far.
All right, you got.
Am I sitting a week? It's kind of surprising a little bit, but I'm going off the premise of a great defense going against a bad offense is not going to be good for that offense. So I have Malik Neighbors, who's clearly the Giants' number 1 target, number 1 receiver, where you want to call him. I'm sitting him this week against a Browns secondary that I believe is one of the best in the league, and the defense that I believe is one of the best in the league. Now, they took their whooping against Dallas, and nobody played well. They played a lot better against Jacksonville. I expect them to play even better against the Giants. Danny Dimes, you got Denzel Ward against Neighbors. No thanks. I don't see Neighbors doing anything when he's going up against that Browns defense. I see Danny Dimes running for his life. I don't see Singletary doing anything. I think the Giants struggle and maybe get field goals, no touchdowns. And I think the Browns really step up on defense this week like they did last week against Jacksonville.
Are you saying the Browns are going to have a winning record, 2-1?
Oh, yeah, I am. I'm a believer. I think, you can say what you want to say about Deshaun Watson, but that defense, they're going to win them a lot of games. And, again, that first game against Dallas was an anomaly. I think the Browns learned from that game, and I think their defense shuts them down. I even considered when we get into our bets, taking the Browns defense to score a touchdown. I was considering it. Yeah, right. Ooh. But I didn't do it. So Malik Neighbors is my sit for this week, Fanatics.
All right, let's move on to the tight end.
Tight ends, yes.
I went with
Brock. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. If you're going to jump right on to Brock Bowers, let's hear it.
Yeah, I'm high on the B squared. Oh, I got nicknames for everybody this week. We got B squared Brock Bowers. Now, most of you know I'm a big college football fan, and I saw a lot of this guy in college, and he was a stud, way more than a stud. This guy was Georgia's best player by far. And Georgia had a lot of great athletes. So what we're seeing in the NFL is what he did at Georgia. I think the Raiders are trying to figure out a way to get him the ball, and it's working. And he's got, again, you can say what you want to say. I didn't think Gardner Minshew would be a good fit for the Raiders, but so far, again, small sample size, it's been great. So Brock Bowers, high target share for the first 2 games, 8 targets, 9 targets. You can pick that up against any tight end for the first 2 weeks. He's right up there. And as he gets more comfortable in the offense, I expect him to be considered a top 5 tight end fantasy ranking-wise for the rest of the year. So I am definitely starting Brock Bowers this week against the Carolina Panthers defense that's just god-awful.
I was not a Brock Bowers believer coming into the season, but 9 targets and 8 targets, if you can get that kind of consistency,
exactly.
It doesn't take much to 5 receptions per game to put him at a very high level in the tight end category.
Especially how much the tight ends have regressed in terms of, it's we'll talk about that too, but they've regressed so much that you're happy with 5 targets. This guy's getting 8, 9 targets a game.
So I went with Mike Gesicki. I don't remember where. Oh, he was in New England last year.
He was, yep. Yeah,
if Higgins is out this week, I never thought I'd be saying this. I was at training camp watching the way that he caught the passes from Burrow. There was a lot of chemistry there. If Higgins is out, I think he's a must start if you have him. Last week against Kansas City, 7 for 91 on 9 targets, like you said. In week 1, he had 4 targets, 3 of those for catches. He would have had a touchdown, but a penalty negated that. seems to be building rapport. Burrow has proven that he likes to target the tight end position, and this week he's got Washington's poorest pass defense.
I agree. I've always liked Mike Gesicki. I don't think he's just ever been in the right offense. Last year they had him and Hunter Henry, so he was splitting time with Hunter Henry. But even when he was in Miami, he was effective. To your point, Joe Burrow loves to throw the tight ends, and again, the rapport you would hope would have came in the preseason, but when you don't play, it takes some time. So I think now Joe is getting comfortable with Mike, and Mike is getting comfortable with Joe, and Joe knows where Mike's going to be, and Mike knows where he needs to be for Joe. So I can see him, Gesicki, being an every week start, regardless if Higgins is out or not. I think he's a legitimate, potentially could be starting from now until the end of the season, a top 10, 12 tight end, 8 to 12 maybe. Yeah.
Especially given the tight end position right now.
Correct. Yep. So I think that's a great start.
All right, where are we at on sits?
Oh, my sit of the week. Now, we talked about him in our panic segment. Are we pressing the panic button? I said I had a couple fingers on him, but I'm not ready to do it yet. Travis Kelce. 4 receptions on 7 targets for 39 yards and playing against a much improved Atlanta Falcons defense that we saw on Monday night. And let me make my own plug that I tried to tell you guys that they were pretty good. And you guys laughed at me. Some of you out there, that's okay. I get it. It was kind of a weird type of deal. But again, I think Atlanta's defense is going to give Kansas City some trouble this weekend. And Patrick Mahomes has all these new shiny toys. He's got Worthy. He's got Rice back. He had Hollywood Brown. He's got all these guys. And maybe Travis is kind of the odd man out. I hate to say it, but is this really the beginning of the slow decline of Mr. Swift, i.e. Travis Kelce? We will see. But I am sitting Travis Kelce this week against the Atlanta Falcons. Would have never thought I would have said that. Beginning of the year, last year, 2 years ago, whatever. But yes, I am sitting him.
Can't agree with you at all.
Yeah.
Nope. No way. Now with Pacheco being down, Mahomes is going to pass the ball. We shall see. Let's chalk it up. We'll review next week and see who was right.
But, okay, if they pass the ball, you got to be wary of that Falcons pass rush.
I get it.
Because they had no answer for Trey Henderson, and Judon is just as good, maybe even better than Henderson. So it's going to be interesting to see that with that. That's the game within the game. I mean,
that rookie tackle.
He was awful. So you can talk about Kelce getting passes, and they ain't going to be long. They're going to be 3-yard outs and 5-yard outs. But again, that all adds up. So it's going to be interesting to see how, with the absence of Pacheco, what Kansas City does in terms of offense. Do they keep their offense the same with the running backs they have, or do they focus more on the pass, short, intermediate passes, which, again, that's where kind of Kelce thrives. So, but at this point, I'm sitting Travis Kelce.
All right. Let's circle back next week and see how that all panned out.
You can't wait, can you?
My sit of the week is Dallas Goedert. With A.J. Brown out last week, everyone expected it to be the Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert show, right? Plus Saquon Barkley, of course. But no, it was not that. 4 targets resulting in 3 catches for 38 yards. One of those catches was on the last drive of the game. I know he's hard to sit because he's still in a very high-powered offense. But, man, manage your expectations. If you are going to start him, and if you have better options, I'd consider it.
So here's a question for you. You start Mike Gesicki over Dallas Goedert?
Yes.
Oh, emphatic yes. Okay, good. I would probably do the same thing, considering the matchup and considering the last week or a couple weeks of stats. I can see that.
Gesicki had the same stat line week 1 as Dallas Goedert and a much improved stat line the other week.
Yeah, I know. Just throwing it out there. Just see what you would say. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, next up are our survivor picks. Whoo, man. This survivor thing, Blake, has been brutal, bro. It's been, man, oh, man. So let's go over your survivor pick and your safe pick and your caution pick for week 3.
Safe pick of the week, staying in Cincinnati again. over the Commanders, I really am going to struggle to find ways that they lose. Home field advantage, again, the jungle's going to be rocking. Burrow's finding his groove finally. Higgins or no Higgins, I'm still in. The Bengals have the highest market win odds at 77% this week. The one downfall to picking the Bengals this week, they've got a lot of future value.
Tons of future value.
Now, I know we've talked about, don't look too far ahead and you want to save some, but don't save too much. Yeah. At this point, pick to win, survive in advance.
Seriously.
We'll figure it out later.
Yeah, survive in advance in caps because this first couple weeks has been brutal.
Yes. Now, my caution pick is Las Vegas over Carolina. This is the most popular pick of the week from a projection standpoint at 23%. It's a trap. I'm telling you right now. Vegas coming off a big win at home this week, hosting Carolina Panthers. What's the trap? New old QB veteran Andy Dalton. Follow our rules. I'm telling you right now. Dalton may just give them the spark that they need for an unexpected, unforeseen win.
The red rifle is back, Blake.
Yep.
Who would have thunk it? I couldn't agree with you more. Again, this looks like an easy W for Vegas, but again, coming off a big win on the road against Baltimore, you're flying east, you fly back west. Carolina, nobody's giving them a shot. They're benching their quarterback. The team's in flux. They've been called the worst franchise in the NFL, blah, blah, blah. They bring in Andy Dalton, a veteran who knows how to win, albeit not enough, but knows how to win. And, I think to your point, he's going to get some juice to that team. And Vegas, you better be very careful going in against this game against Carolina. Very careful.
That, and in all honesty, before I really thought through the game,
yeah,
I like the Las Vegas pick.
Oh yeah, I was close to picking it myself. To be honest with you, I thought about it because I just think those trap games, i.e., San Francisco, Minnesota, I thought that was a set up. Set up. So again, in the NFL, any given Sunday now, it really is any given Sunday. There's not a Sunday that goes by you're like, I can't believe that team won or lost. We say that every Sunday because we think this is the surest thing. This is a no-brainer. Bengals over Patriots. That's a no-brainer. Ravens over the Raiders. No-brainer. San Francisco over Minnesota. No-brainer in any given Sunday. So I agree with you on that pick in terms of your caution pick. Now, my safe pick, again, I'm going back to Cleveland over the Giants. Sorry, Giants fans, I just don't see you getting it done. Your quarterback is average at best. I'm kind of being nice about Danny Dimes. He's average at best. Now, Deshaun Watson played a little bit better, so that's a little bit encouraging. But if you're Cleveland, you're running the ball. You're relying on your defense. You're not even messing around with the Giants. The Giants got troubles on the offensive line. Their defenses are very good. The secondaries are very good. So if this is the game, Cleveland fans, you want to see Deshaun Watson do something, he might actually do something this game. So it'll be interesting to see what Cleveland does from a play calling standpoint to get Watson going. But this could be the game that kind of, I guess, rejuvenizes his career because as of right now, man, you talk about a non-return on investment. Woo, there's no question Cleveland has not gotten the bang out of their buck for Deshaun Watson. So regardless of that, I'm going with Cleveland over the Giants as my safe pick.
That's a great pick. That defense single-handedly wins that game. They don't even need to show up on the offensive side.
Right. The defense can play offense. That's what I believe. They just turn around and play both ways. My caution pick, and this is an interesting one. I got Green Bay beating Tennessee, but be careful, especially if Malik Willis starts, because obviously we know his history with the Titans. They drafted him, wanted him to be the heir apparent to Tannehill. It didn't work out for Malik, but you don't think Tennessee knows his tendencies and is going to exploit those if they can, if he starts? Most people don't know. Again, small sample size. Tennessee's D is number one in the league, allowing 206 yards a game. That's right, folks, 206. Now, Green Bay did a great job last week of letting Malik Willis or not having Malik Willis have to win the game. They relied on Josh Jacobs, the offensive line, and the defense to do their jobs. But this week's going to be different. You can expect a lot of 8-man fronts. The Titans, I know for a fact they will not let Josh Jacobs out of their sights. And what they're going to do, Malik Willis, you're going to have to beat us. And we don't think you can. So let's see it. So caution pick this week, Green Bay over Tennessee. I think that's going to be a closer game than people think.
After I fully anticipated Indy sticking it to Green Bay with the loss of Jordan Love, how Green Bay's defense got ran all over the week prior.
Right.
I was shocked to see what happened with Indy and Green Bay. So I think this pick is a sound caution tale.
And it could be a classic trap game for Green Bay. You're coming off a relatively not easy, but easier win. You're going into Tennessee. And Tennessee, like, again, if you got a good defense, you're going to be in a lot of games. It's just their offense that just the problem with Tennessee. It has nothing to do with their defense. So it's going to be interesting to see if Green Bay can score against their defense. And in turn, will Tennessee run the ball on a Packers defense of line or defense that's not good against the run? They should. But will Callahan stick to that script and run the ball? If he's listening to his dad, he should. But you never know. These younger coaches, they like to throw the ball a lot. So it's going to be interesting again, the game within the game. Conventional wisdom says, okay, we need to stop Josh Jacobs. Tennessee, that's what we need to. We need to stop the run. Every team says that, but do you really mean it? If they stop the run, they're going to have a chance to win that game because they got to know what Malik Willis could do well and what he's not so good at. I'm assuming he's not very good against the blitz. I'm just going to throw it out there. So you don't think they're going to pressure him. So, again, it's going to be interesting to see the game within the game with the quarterback that was once with the team and is now with the other team, if he starts.
Yep. Any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday.
Speaking of Sunday, what's a good way to get your Sunday started right, Jason? That is one good way to get a Sunday started right.
Blake, it tastes so good when it hits your lips, buddy. It tastes so good when it hits your lips.
It's time for the Sunday six-pack.
Yes. Let's get some betting. Let's get our bet on. Here we go. Who you got this week? What's your trifecta, your parlay this week, Blake?
My parlay is Deontay Johnson over 3.5 receptions, Jaden Daniels over 47.5 rushing yards, and Patty Mahomes over 262 passing yards. So Deontay Johnson over 3.5 receptions. So far in 2024, he's had 6 targets in each game, but has not eclipsed 3 receptions in either with Bryce Young. Hence, welcome Andy Dalton. In 2023 in Pittsburgh, he eclipsed 3.5 receptions, 8 out of 13 games with a passing offense that was much worse, in my opinion, than Andy Dalton. So Deontay Johnson, they brought him in for a reason. I think they're going to feed him the rock, and I think Andy Dalton's going to easily help him get over 3.5 receptions.
I like that action.
Jaden Daniels, over 47.5 rushing yards. So you said it first, Jason. The Bengals pass defense isn't going to make it easy on Daniels, and the only way he's going to get any action fantasy-wise is using his legs. So far this season, he's averaged 13 carries a game and 66 yards on the ground. I don't see that changing this week in Cincinnati. I mean, even Huntley ran all over us for Baltimore as a backup. So Jaden Daniels is a much better athlete than Huntley.
Or Jacoby Brissett. Let's talk about that. How many yards he got running the ball? He can't run.
He's an aged veteran.
Yeah, grizzled. He's not even aged. He's grizzled. That's
right.
when you know you're old. You use that term. But no, I like that action too, buddy. Love that action.
And then so Mahomes over 262 passing yards. I've already gone over this one. Pacheco's out. I think they're going to pass the ball. Mahomes has averaged over his career over 300 yards per game when indoors. I don't think this is going to be any different.
That's an interesting nugget right there. Okay. So
what about you? What's your parlay look like?
My parlay is Derek Carr over 1.5 touchdowns with my man DC.
I'll say, don't you mean DC?
DC. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Zay Flowers over 4.5 receptions. Nico Collins over 5.5 receptions. Now, my man DC, again, I've already talked about it. He's on fire. We're going to ride that train. We're going to milk it until we can't milk it anymore. But he's going up against Philly's D, who's 28th in passing yards, giving up 242 yards a game. I think this is easy. The Saints are at home. They're coming off a big win. Might have a little bit of letdown, but I don't see any reason why Derek Carr won't have at least over 1.5 touchdowns. So I feel confident about that. Zay Flowers, I think this might be the easiest bet of the week. Zay Flowers in his first 2 games has had 11 and 10 targets in the first 2 games and 4.5 receptions. Come on, folks. Fanatics, what are we talking? This bet is a lock, like a lead pipe lock. Like 4.5 receptions for a guy who's averaged 11 and 10 targets for the first 2 games. Lock it up. Lock it up. And lastly, Nico Collins. Again, another guy. First 2 games, 10 targets, 8 targets, and 5.5 is the line. Wow. As our buddy DJ Khaled would say, another one. You could go ahead and book this one. So I got Derek Carr over a touchdown and a half, Zay Flowers over 4.5 receptions, and Nico Collins over 5.5 receptions. $10 bet on FanDuel and get you $61.66, buddy.
I tell you what, my jaw hit the floor when I saw the Zay Flowers 4.5 receptions.
Crazy, right? I couldn't believe it. I had to take like a triple take.
That seems like easy money.
Whew.
But this season has been quite the wild ride, Jason. So
who you telling?
So as easy money as it sounds, it might not be that easy of money.
You never know.
Speaking of wild ride, I found I compiled some nuggets for us here to just wrap this whole thing up of how the season's gone so far. Aside from all the injuries, disappointing tight end performances, the QB situation, as you kind of alluded to earlier, is absolutely insane through 2 weeks. So from 2019 through 2022, there was between 105 and 110 touchdowns thrown in the first 2 weeks. Last year, there was only 85 touchdowns thrown in the first 2 weeks. This year, 69 touchdowns thrown in the first 2 weeks.
Wow.
Here's where it gets really wild. Statistically, Derek Carr is the best passer in the NFL. Gardner Minshew has the highest completion percentage. Sam Darnold has the longest touchdown pass. Baker Mayfield is undefeated and just barely behind Derek Carr statistically. And Kyler Murray had a perfect passer rating in week 2.
Yeah, you can definitely drop the mic on that one. So when you read off those stats, you know what the first thing that came to my mind? You're going to laugh at this one. So remember in the animated version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer when they had the Land of Misfit Toys?
Yeah.
These, like, think about all the names you just rattled off. And wouldn't they be the perfect kind of land of misfit toys? You got Derek Carr, Gardner Minshew, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Kyler Murray. I mean, maybe not necessarily Kyler Murray, but definitely the first 4. And these guys are like lighting it up. Guys, except for Kyler Murray, that you were not even contemplating drafting. And now they're doing this. So to Blake's point, what a crazy ride it's been the first 2 weeks. The stats Blake wrote, gave us were crazy. 69 touchdowns. And here's the thing that's kind of ironic about that. Look at the amount of points your field goal kickers are getting you. Now, remember, I'm a proponent of drafting kickers with your last pick. But you got to look at some of these kickers. They're getting you 20, 25 points a game. I mean, those are QB numbers.
They are.
Crazy. Absolutely wild. Well,
also, if you look at this, dude, Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield both survived the Carolina experience.
God bless them. They did. And you know what? I'm happy for Sam Darnold because, and to a lot of pundits' point, he struggled with the Jets of Carolina, but I think what's happening is he's older and he's getting good coaching. So, obviously, Carolina's not excited about their quarterback situation and Bryce Young is getting benched, but as Baker Mayfield talked about today, it's not the end for Bryce Young. He's young. He doesn't have any help, and he's a quarterback. The quarterback is the hardest position to play because you need everybody to be on the same page. If you don't, no quarterback can look good.
Well, man, what you got? Anything else?
I don't. All we got is our socials. Our socials keep growing like crazy. Blake keeps giving me stats about our socials. I'm like, whoa. So we appreciate all the love on the social media platforms, Fanatics. Blake, give them an idea of what we're doing on the socials.
Join us on Facebook, the Sunday Fun Day, guys. You can also find us on Instagram and YouTube. If you see us on YouTube, leave a comment. But do send us a message on Instagram or Facebook. Questions kind of dried up this week, but we do appreciate those questions, and we'd love to bring them on the air and answer them for you guys.
I think people are still in shock about a lot of things that are going on with the with the games this year. But to Blake's point, bring on the questions. If you look at some of the chats we're on, pay attention to those. Those have been some great conversations among people that are just as passionate about fantasy football as we are. Blake, any final words?
I think that's also part of the reason our socials are growing, dude, is we're in other conversations and other areas on social media, and people are seeing that we bring interesting perspectives to the table.
I agree. Any final words, buddy?
No, I got mine all in with how wild the first 2 weeks have been.
It's like the Wild Wild West in NFL. Well, Fanatics, that's a wrap for this episode of the Sunday Fun Day Guys Fantasy Football Podcast. And remember, Fanatics, to make this Sunday your fun day. Sunday Fun Day Guys, out.